I woke up to find my 5-month-old puppy lifeless in the backyard, butchered by the psychopath living next door, simply because he held a grudge. But when I tried to get justice, his mother didn't just cover for him. She tried to finish what he started by burning my property to the ground. You honestly won't believe how far a parent will go to protect a monster until you hear this. It all started the day I moved in. You expect neighbors to maybe bring over a pie, or just wave, right? Well, Jeremy, the 23-year-old son of the woman next door, decided to welcome me with a nightmare. On my very first day, I heard a knock. I opened the door to see a man in a mask holding a knife. He forced his way in, pulled out a rope, and tied my hands behind my back. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I thought I was going to die right there. Then he just ripped the mask off and laughed. "It's just a prank," he said. A prank. That was my introduction to Jeremy. Over the next few weeks, my life became a living hell. He uprooted my flowers because he didn't like them. He keyed my car when I asked him to stop. He even put a ladder up to my bathroom window while I was in the tub. But the real horror started about a month in. I was walking my puppy, Max. He was a little Jack Russell, only 5 months old, when Jeremy stormed out of his house, looking violent. I don't even know what set him off, but he grabbed my arm and started screaming. Max, brave little guy that he was, nipped Jeremy's leg to protect me. Jeremy lost it. He started kicking my dog, swinging his heavy boot right into Max's nose until he squealed in pain. I screamed at him, terrified, and he just walked away, tossing a chilling threat over his shoulder. Say goodbye to that little piece of crap. That night, I woke up and Max wasn't in his bed. Panic set in immediately. I ran to the backyard and there he was. He was covered in blood, lifeless, with a massive wound in his stomach. I fell to my knees in the grass and just screamed. It was a raw, gut-wrenching sound that I didn't even know I could make. Jeremy had killed my best friend just because he could.
Because he knew it would break me.
I called the police, shaking so hard I could barely hold the phone. But when they arrived, they were useless. They said without video evidence or a witness, their hands were tied. They filed a report and left. I felt completely abandoned. Jeremy knew he'd gotten away with it. For days, he'd stand on his porch, staring at me with a smug, evil grin. He was emboldened. He destroyed my garden again, ripping up the replanted flowers just to show me he was in control. And then came his mother, Linda. I foolishly hoped Linda might be embarrassed or apologetic. She showed up at my door with this fake, plastic smile and said, "I just want to clear the air. Jeremy is a bit rough around the edges, but he's a good boy. He just gets carried away." Carried away? He killed my dog. Then she looked me dead in the eye and said, "I'm sorry about Max, but you know how animals get. You shouldn't leave them unsupervised." I stared at her, my mouth hanging open. She was blaming me? "Your son murdered my dog," I said, my voice shaking with rage. "And if you don't stop him, it's going to get worse." She just brushed it off, insisting he had a temper but was good at heart. I slammed the door in her face. The terror escalated. Late one night, I heard footsteps on my porch. I peeked through the blinds and saw Jeremy sliding an envelope under my door. I waited until he left to open it. Inside was a single note that made my blood run cold. "Say goodbye to your house next." I went to the police again with the letter. Again, they said it wasn't enough hard evidence. I felt like I was going crazy. So, I took matters into my own hands. I installed security cameras everywhere and started keeping a journal of every single threat. A few days later, I woke up to my car tires slashed. I checked the footage, but he'd stayed just out of clear view. I could see him across the street, smirking while I waited for the tow truck. Linda just waved at me like everything was normal. Then, a brick came crashing through my sliding glass door. Shattered glass everywhere. Attached to the brick was another note. "Next time, it'll be you." Finally, the police started to take it seriously. They put a patrol car nearby for a few nights. Things got quiet.
Too quiet.
I started to hope maybe he'd given up. But one evening, I was walking back from the store and smelled smoke. I dropped my groceries and ran. My shed was engulfed in flames. I screamed for help, grabbing the hose, but it was too late. Everything inside, tools, memories, old photos, was turned to ash. I stood there staring at the fire, trembling with pure fury. He had crossed the line. The next morning, I marched into the police station with everything: the letters, the journal, the footage of the person running away after the brick incident. I refused to leave until a detective spoke to me. I laid it all out. The detective looked at the footage of the brick thrower and said, "We might be able to use this." While they investigated, Jeremy denied everything, and Linda backed him up, claiming he was being targeted. But then, the breakthrough happened. The detective called me. They had arrested Jeremy. But get this, it wasn't just for the fire. They caught him red-handed breaking into another neighbor's house. They searched his stuff and found evidence of a string of burglaries. He had been terrorizing the whole neighborhood. But the most chilling part? The detective came to my door and told me Jeremy had been denied bail. He looked me in the eye and said, "We found notes on his phone. He was planning to break into your house next. He had photos of your routine. The fire was just a distraction." My knees almost gave out. I realized how close I had come to something even worse than losing my shed. Even with Jeremy in jail, the nightmare wasn't quite over. Linda started driving slowly past my house, glaring at me. I started getting anonymous typed letters saying, "Drop the charges or else." I knew it was her. She couldn't accept that her precious boy was a criminal. The trial was intense. Jeremy sat there looking bored, completely detached from the pain he caused. But when the evidence came out, the videos, the letters, the pattern of stalking, there was no way out. Linda sat behind him, glaring daggers at me the whole time. The jury found him guilty. He was sentenced to several years in prison. Watching him get handcuffed and led away was the first time I had taken a full breath in months. Linda eventually moved away, probably out of shame, or maybe just because she had no one left to enable. It took a long time to rebuild my garden and repair my house. The shed is gone, and Max is never coming back, which still hurts every single day. But I reclaimed my life. I learned that you have to fight for your peace, even when the authorities tell you there's nothing they can do. I'm finally safe, but it changed me. I check my locks 3 times a night now. I have to ask you guys, have you ever had a neighbor who completely crossed the line like this? And do you think the police should have stepped in sooner, or was there really nothing they could do until he escalated? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts.